In the previous episode, Michonne and her new companions were attacked by an unidentified helicopter. Most people inhaled toxic gas and turned into zombies, leaving only the 4 of them alive. However, Aiden was in particularly bad shape, teetering on the brink of death. Since they needed oxygen, Michonne went to the medical plaza behind the mall to search for oxygen tanks. When Michonne brought the oxygen cylinder back, she saw a scene that broke her heart. Her good friend had already turned into a zombie. She was ultimately too late. Aiden meeting such an end was something Michonne found difficult to accept. But after more than a decade in the apocalypse, Michonne knew what needed to be done. She drew her katana and, with grief weighing heavily on her, put her friend to rest. However, the pain did not end there. When Michonne walked into the hall, her gaze immediately fell on a figure standing by the counter. It was Aiden's boyfriend, Bailey. When he heard the noise, Bailey turned around, but he too had become a zombie. How could this be? When she left, Bailey's condition wasn't that dire. Michonne drew her katana, her chest feeling as though it was crushed under a 1,000-pound weight. These were the people who truly cared for her. The only comfort was that Nat was inside the counter. It turned out that when Bailey turned into a zombie, Nat couldn't bring himself to harm him, so he hid inside the counter.
When you can, you need to go home. It's been too long. He's gone. No.
Michonne would not give up on finding her husband. She believed Rick was still alive. After dealing with her friends' bodies, Michonne and Nat put on oxygen masks to breathe clean air. According to Nat, the helicopter attack had used chlorine gas, which, if inhaled in excess, could destroy internal organs. Thanks to their quick reactions and prompt measures, they managed to survive. However, their lungs had been severely damaged, requiring oxygen and long-term care for recovery. For the next year, Michonne and Nat stayed at the mall. Fortunately, they found enough supplies in the mall to scrape by. Michonne's character was one of relentless determination. What doesn't kill you only makes you stronger. She continued to exercise daily. At first, it was incredibly difficult. Any exertion would trigger violent coughing, but as time passed, her body gradually healed, with daily oxygen therapy and adjustments. As the seasons changed from spring to fall, their health had mostly recovered. Michonne even became stronger than before. That night at the dinner table, Michonne laid out a map and told Nat not to follow her into danger anymore. She asked him to go ahead and wait for her in her hometown, Alexandria.
I go to your home and you go to Bridger's terminal? Should be the other way around.
This is how it's gotta be.
No.
Aiden and Bailey were supposed to go. They didn't. Now you—
This is all I got. Okay?
Since Nat couldn't be persuaded, Michonne stopped opposing him. She decided they would set up for Bridges Dock the next day. Rick, I'm coming. At dawn the next morning, with the sun barely risen, Michonne and Nat had already covered more than 10 kilometers. They had found themselves a free zombie laborer. About an hour later, they reached their destination, and Michonne walked inside without hesitation. This was Bridges Dock, the very place where the boat carrying Rick's boots had come from. Her face reflected a mix of vigilance, excitement, and nervous anticipation, but when Michonne saw what lay ahead, her heart sank to the bottom. The place was in ruins, long abandoned. How could anyone possibly live here? What made her mood even worse was the sight of piles of charred corpses in the distance. Could Rick be among them? The moment this thought crossed her mind, tears threatened to spill from her eyes. She couldn't accept such an idea, so she began searching through the burnt bodies, identifying them one by one. It was a nearly impossible task. The corpses were unrecognizable. Michonne searched diligently, from dawn until nightfall, without pausing for rest. By the early hours of the morning, she finally sat down by the fire, utterly exhausted. She hadn't found any trace of Rick. Nat, sitting nearby, said, "The boat where you found his boots did come from here, but now there's nothing left but corpses." Burnt corpses are hard to identify, and most don't even have shoes. You really should have listened to Aiden and stayed home with the kids. But Michonne couldn't resign herself to it. She had just found a glimmer of hope, only to have it cruelly extinguished. On second thought, she realized she had been deceiving herself all along. If Rick were truly alive, he would have found his way home by now.
You can believe he's out there, that he's not gone. You can believe a little longer and still go home to your kids.
After a bout of heavy crying, Michonne let go of the obsession in her heart. She decided to head back home. Protecting her children was more important than anything else. But now, she had no idea what the situation at home was like. From time to time, Michonne used the radio to try to reach Judith, but there was still no response. Nat could only offer her comfort, saying that in a few more days, they might be within the range to receive signals. He glanced at his watch. It was already late, and just as he was about to suggest to Michonne that they find a place to rest, he noticed something unusual in the distant sky. Nat pulled out his binoculars, and as soon as he looked, his face turned grim. Michonne also took out her binoculars, and what met her eyes was a military helicopter identical to the one that had attacked Aiden and the others. A fierce glint of killing intent flashed in Michonne's eyes. With perfect understanding between them, they chose not to run. They took this opportunity to exact their revenge. To avoid being detected, Michonne swiftly killed the zombie laborer and then pulled the handcart. Nat readied his weapon, similar to the one he had given Michonne before, except this one could fire continuously and had a mount for aiming. The first explosive round hit the helicopter but didn't detonate. They thought it was a dud, but in reality, it wasn't. Rick and Okafor were sitting in the helicopter. The first explosive round pierced through the glass and lodged into Okafor's chest, then detonated moments later, blowing Okafor to pieces. Nat quickly launched a second round, striking the helicopter. Smoke poured from the helicopter as it wobbled in the air. A third round struck the cockpit directly. The helicopter split into two, seemingly destroying everyone inside. But suddenly, several dark figures burst out, 5 or 6 in total.
You and them.
Michonne gripped her katana and flanked them from the side. 3 of them were still alive, and memories surged through her mind as images of Aiden flashed through her thoughts. The fury within Michonne reached a peak. She will take her revenge in the most brutal way.
Do it. Not him.
She seized the first struggling man, lifted him by the collar, and slowly slit his throat with her katana. Then she moved to the second one, purposefully removing his helmet so he could see the hatred in her eyes. The third person tried to pick up the weapon that had fallen to the ground, but Michonne didn't give him the chance. She kicked him down hard.
Kids.
When she tore off his helmet, both of them froze on the spot. Michonne's searing anger instantly vanished, replaced by disbelief as she stared at the man before her. Rick! It was Rick!
I'm not with them.
Michonne nodded. She had always believed in her man. For years, they had both dreamt of this moment countless times. In a world as bleak as this, only the kiss they shared now felt truly real. After 7 long years, they could finally hold each other again. The feeling was indescribably wonderful. Michonne wanted to take a good look at Rick, but he seemed to remember something important. He turned his gaze skyward, his expression serious. Others would come to investigate. Rick didn't have time to explain. He said anxiously, "When they arrive, don't tell them your real name. Say you came running out of the woods and saw the soldiers being attacked. Say you're from a community that fell years ago. You must not let them know your true identity, especially your abilities. Keep them hidden at all costs." Michonne couldn't understand, but Rick's fear was evident. Were these people really that terrifying?
Go back with them. We have to. I promise. Michonne, I promise. I'll make it so we get away.
Michonne had many questions, but she couldn't hide the joy of seeing Rick again. She could only nod and embrace him once more.
Is that him?
He's not with them.
Well, how then?
The sudden turn of events came too quickly. A soldier was still alive. Michonne immediately checked on Nat, while Rick picked up the katana and charged at the soldier. Nat was truly someone worth admiring. Even in his final moments, he didn't cry out in pain. Instead, he asked Michonne with concern, "Is your husband still the man he once was? Can you tell?" Before Nat could finish his sentence, He forced out one last smile and then fell silent forever. Michonne's heart ached with unspeakable grief. Even at the end of his life, Nat had thought of her well-being. Rick, standing nearby, didn't know how to comfort Michonne. He could only offer a quiet, "I'm sorry," but now wasn't the time for sorrow. The Civic Republic military's retrieval team could arrive at any moment. Rick urgently asked Michonne if she had brought anything that could reveal her identity. If discovered, the consequences would be severe, so they needed to destroy any evidence.
A journal, a radio, a phone, your boots.
I need him.
Rick then placed the katana in Nat's hands and told Michonne, "When they come, tell them you came out of the woods and saw this man killing the soldiers. Say you picked up a gun to stop him. We'll be separated. But don't panic. Hide your identity and abilities at all costs. I promise I'll come find you once it's safe. They're almost here. I need to point a gun at you, and you have to play along by raising your hands. Also, use a different name for zombies. It's just a habit from where I'm from. Otherwise, they'll know we know each other and might put things together." At that moment, the Civic Republic military helicopters arrived, 3 of them in total. Michonne didn't know exactly what she was about to face, but a smile spread across her face, because Rick was truly alive, and they had found each other. As long as they were together, no challenge was insurmountable. An hour later, Michonne was taken to the Civic Republic, because, according to Rick's account, Michonne was just someone passing by who had helped. She was able to be accepted by the Civic Republic, but first, she had to go through the committee's scrutiny. Michonne's acting was flawless as she introduced herself as Dana, explaining that she had been living with her boyfriend and sister until recently, when they turned into monsters, forcing her to wander alone, but their questions were sharp and probing.
And what was your weapon of choice out there?
Bow staff. I lost it like months ago. I've been making do with that knife.
Does it bother you that you're being observed?
No, I just haven't seen myself in a while.
Michonne held onto Rick's instructions, portraying herself as an ordinary survivor. When it was mentioned that staying in the Civic Republic meant never being able to leave, Michonne displayed an expression of intense longing, her eyes even welling up with tears of emotion. This convinced them that she had endured great hardships outside and was desperate for a peaceful life. With every answer, Michonne passed seamlessly, officially becoming a consignee. However, upon arriving in an unfamiliar environment, Michonne instinctively wanted to assess her surroundings, a cautious habit she had developed since the start of the apocalypse. There are cars, many soldiers and consignees around, which is much stronger than she imagined. Casually, she began to stroll around, trying to get a lay of the land, but just then, a soldier approached her from behind. There was no need to guess it was Rick. Rick led Michonne through a doorway, glancing around to ensure no one was paying attention before slipping inside. The room was a storage space for military supplies, a place rarely visited. After scanning their surroundings and confirming it was safe, they let their guard down and shared a deep, lingering kiss. After a while, Michonne noticed something unusual about Rick's left hand. Hearing Rick say all this, Michonne looked at her husband with pain in her heart. She didn't need to ask to know the price Rick had paid to try and come home.
We will get away together. They're okay? She's okay?
Yes.
Michonne's expression at this moment was very intriguing. She had initially wanted to tell Rick that she had given birth to a son, but the words stuck in her throat. Michonne recalled what Nat had said before he died.
Is it still him? Can you tell?
I can't.
Although she trusted Rick unconditionally, when it came to the safety of her children, caution was paramount. Michonne then said, "The Civic Republic military has been massacring survivors outside. They've killed so many. Did you have any part in that?" Rick immediately denied it. He explained, "There's a unit that wears red uniforms. They go out regularly and come back covered in blood. Most people don't know what they're doing out there."
Could we stop them?
No.
I didn't either. At first I only pieced it together later. Michonne felt a pang of disappointment. Rick seemed less like the fearless leader she remembered and more like the man subdued by Negan long ago. It wasn't entirely Michonne's fault for thinking this way. She hadn't experienced the formidable power of the Civic Republic or the pain and struggle Rick endured with each failed escape attempt.
Sorry about your friend.
He should have lived. I'm here now. We're here together now. And we're gonna get home.
After another kiss, they exited the room separately. Fortunately, no one had noticed them. Michonne wandered aimlessly. She reflected on Rick's behavior, which left her somewhat disappointed. How could the once invincible leader have become like this? Was this place truly so powerful and terrifying? Michonne felt an even stronger urgency to understand this place. After walking for a while, she saw a shipping container. Michonne climbed the ladder to the top of the container, and the scene before her left her utterly stunned. It appeared they were on an aircraft carrier. The plaza was filled with countless fighter jets, helicopters, and vehicles, resembling an enormous armory. Even though Michonne had seen the large survivor community where Nat once belonged, it looked fragile compared to this. Not to mention Alexandria. Perhaps a single missile from the Civic Republic could destroy their home. Suddenly, Michonne began to understand the fear and concern in Rick's eyes. To survive here, no one could know their true relationship. Otherwise, her family would be at risk too. What Michonne didn't know was that, at that moment, someone was watching footage of her interrogation. The mysterious figure did not show their face. After viewing the footage, the figure went to Rick's room and unlocked the door with a key. The mysterious figure casually opened a bottle of red wine, taking slow sips as he waited for Rick. Half an hour later, the door opened, and Rick walked in.
Sorry for breaking in. Hi, Rick.
He turned around and saw the person sitting in his room. So who was this mysterious figure? What was the purpose? And did Rick know this person?